Greetings, everyone. My name's Mitch, which many of you know me as Mitch the Orgone Donor. Today I'd like to talk about my recent gifting adventures that involve making and gifting another batch of Orgonite chembusters, also known as cloudbusters. And for today's video, I'll focus on 3 devices I created and gifted this week and the immediate impact it had around my home in Sedona and the locations where I gifted each device. Now, if you've ever made a chembuster before, one of the things you'll notice is how windy it can get. I don't know exactly why this happens, except to wonder if it has something to do with puncturing a hole in the EMF bubble. But this is Sunday, March 10th, when I made the first one. This is Monday, March 11th, when I made the second one. You can notice what it does is it sort of shreds apart a lot of things in the sky. That's the DOR, deadly orgone radiation, which is basically a type of it's electrosmog. And so you'll notice a bunch of wind forming and just sort of like, I wouldn't say sky anomalies maybe isn't the right word, but you'll notice a lot of weird shit like this, puncturing a hole around the area where it is. So you can see like there's DOR but a hole punctured in the sky. The interesting thing about this is as I screenshot each of the forecasts throughout the week and kept repeating this process, I noticed that this week we were only expecting a 30% chance of rain on Friday. This was as of Sunday, just before I made the first chembuster. But after making that chembuster and noticing the wind change, it got windy as fuck. That's one thing that was pretty obvious to notice. And then after that, I also noticed that Wednesday had increased from a 0% chance of rain to 40%. Thursday had increased from a 0% chance to 60%. And that 30% chance that was for this Friday has now gone up to a 60%. The temperatures also went down about 3 to 6 degrees. So as I continued recording the forecast, the temperatures went down a little bit more, and the 60% chance of rain for Thursday and Friday increased to 70%. Now this was every time I made a new chembuster. Now one thing I have to point out is that one of these chembusters I made this week is actually still at my home to be picked up soon by somebody else around Arizona, but this did all overlap with a 4th chembuster I had, which I made last week and was picked up by somebody in Mesa. So I want to highlight that one real quick too. This was for a specific individual who was supposed to pick up one of the smaller chembusters that I had posted on Instagram last week, but when this person arrived to my home, I found out they actually lived in very close proximity to one of those golf ball towers that you all hear me bitching about all the time. And so it only felt right to give this person one of the bigger ones, which they put down in Mesa. And I'll talk about this later, but they did have quite a bit of rain and some hail immediately after installing this. This one we just delivered yesterday, which would have been March 13th. This went to Prescott, Arizona. And this other one here went to Prescott, Arizona. Both of these couples we interacted with were awesome. And it was amazing that they got to actually see the holes in the sky being ripped apart in real time while we were there. We buried a bunch of earth pipes, we put up the chembusters, and the white lifeless haze started forming the traditional cauliflower clouds that everybody remembers from their childhood. So that was pretty cool. But after about 45 minutes, you can see what began to form. This was the rainstorm that was not predicted at all, that just magically happened to roll into Prescott. So this is one of those things that happens when you put a chembuster in an area if you are supposed to have rain that has been suffocated and basically killed geoengineering. So this was about an hour and a half after. We did some shopping, ran around town, and then we needed to get out because just as we left town, this happened. It pretty much rained all the way back to Sedona, and this is something you can encounter as well. If you are supposed to be receiving rain and it's not raining and people are always complaining, like here, this is about, I would say, an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours after both of the chembusters and all of the earth pipes were deployed. You're gonna see an increase in rain if you're supposed to have rain. But the interesting thing here is I screenshot the forecast, and this is the forecast showing that nothing for Thursday, and then Friday it was 60, then 50, then 40% for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But a really interesting thing was recording the forecast for Prescott specifically that Thursday there wasn't a chance of rain, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were 60, 50, and 40%. So after these things had had enough time overnight to today, which would be Thursday the 14th of March, the forecast now shows that is a 90% chance. Went from 0% to 90% overnight. And now the 60% for Friday went up to 70%. We'll check back later to see if Saturday and Sunday increase as well, but it's only been a few hours since I recorded that. So basically, I just want to share what happens when you gift a chembuster, and also just to highlight that since last summer when those Maui fires happened, I just got really extra busy putting chembusters all over the state of Arizona. And for the last 5 years that I've lived here, this has pretty much been a huge focus, along with my Earth Pipes Across Arizona project. So I'm really just hoping to motivate and encourage people to do something about their own space, starting with their home and working their way outward to do the same thing or at least similar things that I've done to fill in the gaps and to help essentially bust every tower that's out there, because every tower out there, every EMF source on Earth needs to be busted if people are expecting anything to change. And I've actually got several very simplistic ways to do that. One of the easiest ways is to get something like a holy hand grenade pyramid for your home. This is something that's a little bit more like, I would say it's like tower busters on steroids, but you put one under the smart meter or stick it inside the house. Also, put an earth pipe in the ground, sometimes two. If you have a very large property, then put quite a few, but share them with family and friends and start creating an organite grid. Use things like the Orgone Tower Buster. It's the universal gifting tool. You put these all around your house, put them near the area where you sleep. If you work in an office, a school, a hospital, anywhere that's got towers around, they're fantastic. If you're looking for something simplistic or you don't know where to start, I've got a pucks and a pipe pack. This is fantastic for putting things inside the house and putting an earth pipe in the ground to create your own grid. Or if you really want, you can nuke the fucking neighborhood and get something like the neighborhood block party pack. This is sort of the go big or go home option, like the way I say kill it with fire. It's definitely something you can share with people in your neighborhood, especially if you have neighbors you actually like. If you like shiny objects, I've got that too. I would encourage people to go on my website and look at some of these things. Look at the reviews and the nice things people have said about the stuff they've gotten from me and the experiences they've had with it. So aside from all of the chembuster stuff, I also just want to remind everybody that there is a frequency fence going on around this entire realm. And it affects everybody. It is comprised of every cell tower, every smart meter, every Wi-Fi router, every Apple Watch, every Tesla, every phone in every pocket. It is every single EMF device. People think HARP is a facility in Alaska. It's not. It's a network. And that network is used to do all of this. There's a lot of anomalies going on in the sky that people aren't even aware of. And when you start fucking around with things like Organite, when you start building these things that are huge, these cloud busters, or putting those earth pipes in the ground and creating a grid, you're going to notice a significant change in the sky above you. So much so you're not going to be able to avoid it, and neither are all the NPCs around you. So if you want to unblock that sun that many of you email me to continually bitch about being blocked all the time, if you want to do something about increasing the rain that has been stopped over and over again every time it's supposed to come and doesn't, or you're trying to make sense of what the hell is going on in the sky, all of this stuff points back to frequency. It's frequency, energy, and vibration. And everyone wants to talk about this idea that frequency, energy, and vibration, with that Tesla quote, it's the way to understand this universe. But I don't think to this day that the majority of people actually grasp the extent of what that means. If you want to bust chemtrails just like this, start busting towers. You're going to see them seize and snap apart and look like spaghetti noodles or DNA helixes. They're not going to plume out the same. So if you're expecting to see any kind of change, I don't really know what to tell you other than you're going to have to start taking a more active role. I have done everything within my time, money, and energy to help the planet to the best of my ability, and I continue to do so. But I do wish more people would take an active role instead of just asking for free shit. And frankly, as one great philosopher, Regina George, once said, stop trying to make free shit happen, Karen. It's not going to happen. I help those in the best way possible, strategically, coherently, and in a way that actually is driven with a mission and a goal. And so for those of you who follow me, you should know by now that I'm trying to do this in a way that is really just responsible and in a way that allows me to show these types of examples to people to get other people motivated and involved. And so yeah, on that note, I will leave it at that, but go make a chembuster. I've got instructions on my website. They're not hard to follow. And if you want to support my work, consider going to my website, going to my shop, and get something for yourself. Start with your home. Start with your community. Work your way outward. Tell your friends. Get them involved. Get your family involved. Go out gifting. Go out busting towers. If you've got something in your neighborhood that you are so concerned about, then go and do something about it. And so on that note, Just as one last reminder that this place is completely bizarre and has more to do with frequency than most people can grasp, I will leave you with this little tidbit video that I find quite amusing, and I think you will too. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got more chembusters to make and more earth pipes to bury, so I hope you'll join me again next time. Take care. Attention sheeple passengers. Trust the Science Airlines Flight 666 from Sedona, Arizona to Sedona, Arizona will begin boarding at gate 911 in 15 minutes.